This is the most atmospheric game I've played this year, and you can play it in VR or on flat screen. The game is called The Midnight Walk, and in this video I'm going to explain if I think you should buy it. I don't want to give away too much of this game's story, but at its most basic level, you wake up and you find a small, adorable little dude called Pop Boy. It's your job to take him to the moon, and the path you walk to get there is called The Midnight Walk. The world has been taken over by darkness, and you're dropped into it with little to no explanation as to what's happened. And as you explore, you put the pieces together yourself. Not only as you progress through the story, but as you find collectibles and voice recordings. It really reminds me of BioShock in that way, but it also leaves room for you to find your own meanings in what it's presenting. The game challenges your perception on things like life and death, light and dark, good and evil, and I think it's a really well put together narrative. What makes this game impactful to me, along with the story, is the atmosphere MoonHood Studios has managed to create. Let's go join these guys by the fire, hang on. This game is overflowing with style, and I think it comes down to two things, the aesthetic and the music. First off, MoonHood Studios handcrafted the whole game out of real-life clay, so all the characters you see and interact with are all painstakingly hand-sculpted and then 3D scanned. And when I said the whole game, I really do mean the whole game. Every building, tree, landscape, it was all sculpted in clay first and then scanned into the game. I know people say video games are art, and I absolutely agree with that statement. But The Midnight Walk takes this to another level, as it was literally art before it was scanned and made into a game. That in itself is a crazy level of dedication MoonHood Studios have put into crafting this game, and I'm not even done yet. On top of what I just said, all the characters are animated in the claymation style. And when you pair that with the amazing level design, it makes it feel like you're traveling through a movie like The Nightmare Before Christmas or Coraline. And personally, I think this style looks and plays great in VR. If you can, I recommend playing through this game with a micro OLED headset like the Big Screen Beyond or on an OLED monitor where you can get the true black colors. Because in a game where the story is about light and dark, it really makes everything that much more impactful. Then the thing that brings it all together is the music. The composer, Joel Billet, did a fantastic job with the score for this game. In fact, the background music for this video is the score from the game itself, if that gives you any idea. And like I said, it just brings the whole thing together. There were times playing where I had to stop and just look at the environments because what I was seeing and hearing was genuinely art. And this happened more during my playthrough of The Midnight Walk than any other VR game that I've played. To summarize, if I had to describe the experience of playing this game in a few words, it would be hauntingly beautiful. It's obvious to me that MoonHood had a clear vision with this game, and in my opinion, they executed it perfectly. Now let's change gears a bit and talk about the gameplay. The Midnight Walk is classified on Steam as an adventure game, and I would say that's correct. As you play, you and Pop Boy progress by avoiding monsters and completing puzzles. The puzzles aren't the most difficult things in the world to complete, but they are challenging and varied enough to keep things engaging. But if I'm being honest, you're not playing this game for the puzzles, you're playing it for the story and world building. Pop Boy himself is a great companion, and he's designed so well that you pretty much instantly care for the little guy. Alright, let's go see what we got going on over here. Yeah. Oh, he's very happy with that. Nice moves. Oh, okay, you're fine. It's embarrassing, but it's fine. Don't worry about it. And he is genuinely useful. He actually saved me a few times because he reacted to something I couldn't see. Oh god. Oh god, oh god, oh god. The pot saved me there. The Midnight Walk has horror vibes and mechanics such as hiding in cupboards, but at its core this is a narrative-driven experience with tense moments. And I personally wouldn't call it a horror game. Having said that, there were a few points where the game defo scared me a bit, being chased by the monsters. Oh my god. Look at that thing. Oh, it's horrible. Oh! Speaking of monsters, each one is unique and some of them have a really cool mechanic when it comes to dealing with them. In The Midnight Walk, you can close your eyes and you have to listen to locate things. But it's also used to combat some monsters too. And if you play the game in VR on the PSVR 2 or a headset with eye tracking, you actually physically close your eyes in real life to close them in game. That's friggin' cool. For me and my non-eye tracked headset, I had to press a button to close my eyes. But I think I'm gonna have to revisit this game next month when I get my hands on the Big Screen Beyond 2, which has eye tracking built in, as I can only imagine the extra immersion of physically closing your eyes to interact with this game. Now, there's one other rather important thing that I want to talk about, which I mentioned at the beginning of this video. MoonHood Studios developed the Midnight Walk to be playable not only in VR, but in flat screen too. And this has a number of benefits. Let's take an example of if I've played a few hours in VR and maybe I'm tired from the VR, but I want to keep playing. Well, with this game, I can simply swap to my Steam Deck and keep playing right where I left off. The other obvious benefit is it doesn't matter if you have a VR headset, if you want to try out the Midnight Walk, you can. Opening up the game to flat screen players makes it so the game can be sold to way more people, making the game less likely to underperform like unfortunately some other VR games do. And with the gaming industry the way it is, a game flopping can mean the end of a studio. And this may be controversial, but I think if studios have the capacity to develop a VR game which can also be played in flat screen, then they should, as I think this will help VR in the long run. If a developer takes the time to craft a beautiful game like the Midnight Walk and a flat screen player plays it, loves it, and gets really immersed in it, I think there's a good chance that person will think to themselves either as they're playing or after the fact, if I love this game playing it so much flat screen, I wonder what it must be like in VR. And in my opinion, that's how we're gonna get more people trying VR. That's why I think the work Flat to VR Studios is doing is so important as well. Bringing flat screen games to VR will incentivize people to try it so they can re-experience their favorite games in a new medium. Now, this doesn't work for every game. If Ghost of Tabor opened up the game to flat screen players, the VR players would get destroyed. But in single player games, I think it's a great idea. To conclude, if someone buys the Midnight Walk and has the option to play it in VR but chooses flat screen, I think they would be doing themselves a disservice. In my opinion, this game is genuinely art, and I think to get the full immersive experience, VR is a must. And I really wouldn't be surprised if we see this game nominated for Game of the Year. Do I think this game is for everyone? No, I don't. But if you think you'd love being taken on a journey into a beautifully crafted world, then I think you should consider taking a stroll down the Midnight Walk.